teleports for cash up currency, which we'll mention in a second, because I think that's one of the biggest problems within the game, because that clearly shows that they've designed it in a way where buying them is going to be beneficial. But then look at the wording of like, nothing will give you instant boosts to X, Y, and Z. Why would they say instant boosts? Because they intend to be able to sell you X, Y, and Z for a slow boost. Like, that's literally what the wording means. Otherwise, why would they even mention it that way? They would simply say, you won't be able to do these things, but they instead say, you won't be able to instantly boost these things. You won't be able to gain power in our opinion, basically. These things are not a problem based on our definition, which we have not defined what would be a problem in these situations. And in the way that they word these, with it being completely intangible, they completely leave the door open for all of these things to come into the game, because they say things like, oh, you know, it won't be necessary to buy. What is necessary? You know, you start getting into the semantics of it, and they can literally do anything based on this statement. It can be like Black Desert Online. Will it be? Probably not, but the door is open. And what people keep forgetting when they say, because for whatever reason, whenever you have this conversation online, people's go-to thing is, what about X? What about Y? What about Z game? You know what I mean? What about, but Guild Wars 2 does this, and World of Warcraft does this. Why the fuck are we starting at a game that's been out for 5 years? Why are we starting at a game that's been out for 16 years or whatever WoW's been out for? Why are we starting there for a game that hasn't come out yet? Why is the discourse always around, but this thing does it worse? If every conversation just went to, yeah, but this situation's worse, you couldn't have a conversation about anything. You might as well literally go and lay down in your garden with your fucking mouth open and drown yourself in the rain. Because this is like the defeatist attitude of, you know, it's bad, you know, this is bad, but, you know, over there it's bad as well, so why do we care about trying to change it here? If that's your opinion, then you are just willing to accept anything, because mobile games do exist, MMOs with poor monetization that's worse than this do exist. The problem is that those games have been out for a long time, or those games are Korean games, which you can't expect to have a discourse or a change of the game with the developers, because they don't speak to you, because they're Korean and they're in Korea releasing their game in Korea. This game is Amazon Game Studios in the West releasing for a Western market, speaking to the Western market, and we can have change here. It's just the problem is that people are so willing to like sword swallow this cock of the monetization and just be like, yeah, that's fine, because it's, you know, it's not as bad as this game. Which, if that's the level what we're at, it, you know, what's ever going to change? It's just going to be as bad or worse going forward for years to come. But I do think that this is such a disingenuous point to say, especially for 9-to-5ers and casuals, where they say, oh, you know, I don't mind there being boosts in the game because I can't play hardcore. I want, you know, a bit more respect put on my time. I want to be able to come home, enjoy the game, get to end game as quick as I can, so I can enjoy what the game has to offer. You know what you could do? If Amazon was true when they were saying, we want all our players to, you know, some people that don't have enough time to be able to get to end game faster, give it us for free. Just give all those things for free then. Why has it got to be the cash shop? Why does everyone mindfuck themselves into thinking that the problem needs a cash shop solution when the company making the problem can just give you the solution in the game? This is the part that is the most logically inconsistent for me in games, when people say, oh, boosts are fine because I don't have a lot of time. Then why would boosts be fine? Why wouldn't you just be fine with having it for free, which they could give you, because they are saying in their own words, we want players to be able to join in and get to the end game quickly and go play with their friends. And the end game's where the game's at. So why does it have to be in the cash shop? Why can't it just be in the game by default? And people are going to say, yeah, but man, they've got to make money somehow. But that's inherently allowing them to design the game to devalue your time to sell those things. And if you guys can't see that that is like a trend in gaming, I don't know what I can say at this point about it, because it's honestly like, it's so apparent to me, it's so obvious that I feel like having this conversation over and over and over again, whatever angle I come at it, people still turn around and go, yeah, but, you know, you're just poor, or, oh, I work too much, so I need to buy the boost. It's like, if people didn't buy the boosts, you'd still work as much, as the game would just fucking value your time in the first place, because they wouldn't be able to make money off of making the game not value your time. And that's just how it is. So the last point, and I think this is one that people are really forgetting about, especially when they look at this article and they're like, oh yeah, I've got no problems anymore. They never mentioned the Azov, like, teleport skips, like selling the ability to teleport from point A to point B in the cash shop, which they mentioned in their previous statement, and then, of course, neglected to talk about it here. Now, some people might say if they didn't talk about it, maybe it's off the table, but I would say that's the clearest, easiest PR win ever, to include it and just say, we talked about this, but on reflection, we don't think this would fit into our idea and model of the game and what the community would want, so it's off the table. Not mentioning this at all is worse, in my opinion. And I will just talk about this. If you've played New World, you know Azoth is important, and you know why the developers show that it's important, because they put a cap on it. If you remember from playing the game during the summer preview, I don't know what the cap is now, but obviously you use like a large portion of Azoth to teleport from point A to point B. Now, you also have a cap on how much you could have, which was a very small cap, and you use this stuff for crafting and things like that. So they're basically saying, anyone who says that like being able to teleport in the cash shop is not a big deal, they're just so wrong, it's unreal. Because if it wasn't a big deal, one, it wouldn't be sold in the cash shop because nobody would buy it, so what would be the point? And of course, looking at it that way, you're not really understanding why they would cap it in the first place. It's like inventory. Any game in the world could basically just make your inventory infinite, but you know why they don't? To give you other mechanics to be involved with. And what they do in monetization when they cap something is so that they can sell you something that alleviates that cap. Inventory spaces in Black Desert Online. Oh, you can buy the premium buff, which gives you X more inventory spots, or you can just buy these items that permanently increase your inventory capacity. I'm not saying that they're going to sell that in New World, because they're a little bit more higher class than that. So they won't sell you like cap increases, but they'll sell you ways that will benefit you, because you'll be able to use your Azoth on all the other stuff instead of teleporting, because you can buy the teleports instead. And let's be honest, getting Azoth wasn't like a huge deal. It didn't take very long, but the fact that it capped out very early on would just mean that you obviously couldn't do the things when you wanted to do them right there and then, unless you went and grinded some more, which means that putting something in the cash shop which allows you to skip that and use the Azoth on other things that you want, or not you know, go into your cap that you might want to save till later, is obviously a benefit. It's obviously an advantage, and if it wasn't an advantage, no one would buy it, so therefore it would be a waste of time being in there. So whichever way you look at this, it just always comes down to like their concern here is to make money. And I don't hold this against the developers of the game, because I don't think it's really their choice all of the time. I think it's from above, and I don't even think it's the company's fault, because it's the consumers that allow them to do this. So I'm not mad at the company. They're just doing what all the companies do. They're trying to fucking toe that line, try and push that boat out a little bit, and, you know, slow boil that frog. And this is what they do. I'm not mad at them for doing it. I'm just annoyed that people are so easily like fooled by this blatant PR that says nothing good. None of this should be appeasing you guys. This is not good. And I will just talk about this real quick, because I do think it's important. I don't think everyone should refund the game. I don't like look down on people or think that people should just follow me in doing what I'm doing, or that nobody should buy or play the game. Because at the end of the day, me of all people understands that life is short. I have extremely poor health. I have really bad health problems even to this day. And I understand that, especially in the MMO genre where we don't get new games, people just want to play games, man. We're not going to see the change overnight. But the thing is that I'm not saying don't buy the game. I'm saying stop defending these things that are literally, they don't benefit you in any way to defend them. They don't benefit you to even really buy them, like buying the skips and stuff like that. I know people are going to do it if it's in the game. It's like the whole thing with Asmongold and the boosts in WoW. He doesn't want them in the game, but he's going to use them if they are. I don't want them in the game. If I go back and play TBC Classic, of course I'm going to buy a fucking boost. I don't have time to level from 1 to 60 in a game that I played, you know, 15 years ago, just to get back to where I was, like, back at that time. I've been there, I've done that. But that's in a game that's mad old. This is in a new game that's not even released, and people are treating it as if it being, you know, as bad already from what other games do that have been out for that long and have that much of like an amount of content to get through that's kind of irrelevant nowadays. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and this stuff does not benefit us in any way. That's all I'm saying. You know, that's just my 2 cents on it, I guess. Thank you very much for watching, as always. Hopefully you're having a good day. Hopefully you join me on my next videos. Check out the links in the video description, our Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Patreon, all those good things. And I appreciate you a lot. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe out there. We're out. Peace.
hot off the press. Hot off the press news from New World. Introducing our in-game store. We're releasing our in-game store today for alpha players to test content and provide feedback in preparation for our August 31st launch. The store will allow in-game purchases for cosmetic items outside of our deluxe edition and pre-order bonuses. We've received a lot of feedback already, and we believe that it's important to make the store visible now for players to experience and test directly. A lot of feedback? Yeah, they're basically the feedback that they watched was 10 Asmongold Reacts videos. Items in the store during alpha will be purely cosmetic and provide no gameplay advantages. Okay. As the game evolves, we may add new categories to the store based off of our players' desires. We may make mistakes, which is why we're testing and engaging with our community to solicit feedback. The alpha store test will include an example skin, emote, and dyes. Okay, so these are not the exact items we will sell whenever we're live, just to give you an idea of the type and flavor, okay? Give no advantage. I also want to look at this first line, okay? This is Amazon, okay? Remember, this is Amazon. Items in the store during alpha. During alpha. During alpha will be purely cosmetic. You see that? That doesn't mean that they will be purely cosmetic all the time, just during alpha. They thought they were gonna get a little quick one on us, huh? They got the play a little bit of games on me, huh? A little fucking trick me a little bit, huh? Like, many people don't have their guard up. They're not ready. So these people just get in like the quick little whoop, whoop, whoop. And that's what fucking happens. Yeah, it's sneaky. We think it's important to share the goals behind our store design so players can understand our intent to establish a foundation for open dialogue on this topic. Oh, come on. Why? What do you mean? It's to make money. Our plan for having an in-game store is to create an outlet for players who find enough value in store items that they're happy to purchase them. Oh, thank you, God. I thought that it was to... wow. I thought it was to sell things that were bad. You know, I was worried that they were going to intentionally make them bad. So this is actually bad, because things that give you an advantage give you more value. The advantage is value. So to the problem, if the solution and the goal to the store is to create items that people see value in, people are going to see more value in items that give them more value. So this creates a paradox where you are just going to make items in the game that save people time. It's like boosts. Like, it's like the boosts in TBC. Like, that's why people buy them, is because it saves them 100 hours. That's massive value. That's more than 50 cents an hour. Of course people see value in it, but it's your responsibility as a developer to not do it. Our plan is not, and never will be, to create a feeling that store items are necessary to enjoy or compete in the game. We have 3 main goals for the in-game store. Money, cash, and monetization. I think those are the 3 different things that they're trying to go for. We'll see which one of those they're able to hit. Empower expressive personalization. Oh, great. The cosmetic items sold in New World are built to provide additional opportunities for players to shape their characters. Releases will showcase new dyes, apparel, and weapon skins for players to customize their character, as well as themed decorative furnishings and additional house pets players can purchase. Cosmetic items will not provide any perks or boosts to stats. Okay. I mean, cool. Like, I think everybody expected that. If they're cosmetic, by definition of them being cosmetic, that means that they're not going to provide a boost. This does not make me, like, it's like water is wet. Yes, we know that. While the in-game store will provide additional opportunities for customization and feature unique cosmetic items, there is a wealth of visually diverse in-game loot for players to discover and earn across Eternum, at the same level of aesthetic quality with items found in the store. This is a subjective statement. Our goal is not to make the cosmetics offered in-store better, but different than existing gear. We understand players work hard to get their gear and have no intention of diminishing the value of their favorite pieces. Often, the store items are additive for role players and players who like to change their appearance frequently. Below are some examples of gear found in-game versus purchasable in our store. I think this is fine. I mean, this as an in-store example is not really that bad. At launch, we'll offer themed cosmetic items across a variety of categories visually on par with our in-game gear, such as themed apparel and weapon skins. Themed skins that can be applied to existing apparel or weapons to change their style. Housing decor and house pets, decorative home furnishings, and fun pets for your home. Wow. I'm glad that they had fun there because I wouldn't have known that if it was or not. Emotes. New ways for you to express yourself through dance, gestures, and other unique animations. That sounds fine. Yeah, that's fine. Dye packs. While many vibrant pigments are available to harvest to create dyes, additional colors will be available in the store. Company crests. New designs will be available in the store to personalize your company's insignia. I mean, like, obviously all of this stuff kind of sucks, especially if a lot of these things are only available with a microtransaction. I think that's what really sucks. The last line, we won't consider selling anything other than cosmetic items until 2022 at the earliest. When does it come out? It comes out in August, so September. September is the 9th month. That's 3 months. 4 months. Yeah, technically it would be 4 months. Yeah, 4 months after release. Oh my god. Oh my god. At the earliest. Let me read the rest of the post, okay? Maintain a level playing field. The in-game store content will not give players an advantage or PvE or PvP gameplay. Our goal is not to provide anything that players will find to be pay to win for in-game store offers. Well, of course that's not true. Because the examples that you used were pay to win. Yeah, until 2022. Yeah, that's not gonna happen until 2022. It's like this is their view on an advantage. Like, for example, they gave 2 examples of the first post. The first thing that they said was a level boost. A level boost is an advantage in PvE because you can level faster. You know what I mean? How? Because you have to do something that somebody else doesn't have to. Because they paid real money and you didn't. Their time that they invest in the game yields a higher reward and a higher outcome based off of their level because of money that they put in the game. Our goal is not to provide anything that players find to be pay to win for in-game store offers. No items in the store will give players instant lifts to their overall gear score, experience points, or impact territory control. Well, yeah, because you said you were selling rested experience. Like, you literally, you already said you're giving instant. Yeah, look at this. Like, I hate this, man. I hate this because they make you think, they think that you're stupid. Like, I really, really want to play the game. I really do. But I'm just so torn because of this stuff, man. No item in the store is a gate to experiencing game mechanics. Players should never feel as if they had to spend additional money to experience New World once they purchase the game, as the price you pay at launch lets you play the entire released game. That's good. Embrace veterans and welcome new arrivals. Okay, here we go. While Eternum will be full of veteran players, we anticipate new players landing on its shores for years to come. Well after launch, we will consider ideas for items that influence mechanics like rested experience, both through the store and in-game. This will allow late-to-the-game players entering Eternum to catch up at a pace most comfortable with them and to fight alongside their friends in in-game content while not creating a pay-to-win environment. The more players that are able to experience in-game content and participate in in-game modes, the healthier the game experience will be. The timing on when we release any sort of boost will depend on player sentiment, feedback, and how we see new players progressing through the game well after launch. It's 4 months later. If we decide to implement these types of items, they will be obtainable through in-game methods. They will also be obtainable through in-game methods. Okay, looking ahead. Heading towards launch, we are excited to test the functionality of our store. I bet you are. And receive feedback on the items sold within it from our alpha community. Data from the alpha test, as well as the feedback from the testers themselves, will be studied closely and tuning will be done to the store and content as we prepare for launch. The launch of New World is just the start. We plan to continuously ship game updates with new content dropped for years to come, and we hope you'll join us on the Shores Bay tournament on August 31st. Thanks again for all your help and support. Okay, so it just makes me not want to play the game. Like, that's the truth. It makes me not want to play the game. Like, I want to play it on launch, I do, but like, I don't know. It just watch the new Sir Medieval video about it. Let me just go ahead and pull that out. I spoke with the Amazon Game Studios about New World Part 1, Cash Shop, microtransactions, and the infamous Battle Pass. All right. Here we go.
What's going on, folks? My name is Sir Medieval, for those of you that don't know me. And last Friday, I was lucky enough to sit down and have a virtual private conversation with multiple members of Amazon Game Studios about New World.
All right,
this
here we go.
included
Good.
Scott Lane, the game director, Richard Lawrence, the studio director, and Greg H., the creator relations manager. We talked about a lot of different topics, but the hottest and first one we dived into was the microtransactions and cash shop situation, and the recent idea of a battle pass. One of the reasons they like the battle pass is because they feel like it represents a way to earn in-game as well as out-of-game. So for like their free version, if there are players that elect that they don't want to ever spend money past the buy-in price, they would still have a way to earn those cash shop cosmetics in-game just by playing the game. So if you're somebody that plays 8 to 10 hours a day, then more than likely you'll hit all these brackets no matter what. And they did tell me that these quality of life items that they are considering might be inside the battle pass too, but both the pass and the items would not arrive early on. These are things that would be months down the line, more than likely when the majority of us have already reached max level, and they would be of no more use to us.
I do kind of concern myself with that, and here's why I think it's a concern, is because at that point, it's always bad for you to create a verifiable point of difference of this time in the game is worth this much money. Because once you create that metric, everybody scales everything off of that metric. It's the same as WoW tokens in WoW. Like, everything is scaled off of the value of WoW tokens and its relation to real world money.
Which one thing we absolutely 100% did agree on is that they shouldn't be something that would be in at launch.
Yeah.
Their goal is just to do the testing right now, and they do have a statement on this coming very soon for the alpha players, I believe, as well as the testing itself of the monetization methods. But they're very open to adapting and being receptive according to our feedback, which they've always been extremely receptive to player feedback and made a lot of changes because of it. Now, I will be giving feedback on these monetization systems on the inside as well. For those that don't know, I did rack up about 1,300 hours between Alpha 2 and the preview. I did rack up a couple hundred in the first alpha, but I didn't play it that often, probably about 200 to 250. And for the third alpha, I have been in for a little bit, and I'm probably going to be on my way to 3,000 plus hours by the time beta comes out in July. But even so, there's already people with 3,000, 4,000, collectively that many hours already, and I just say mine because I want people to know this is not just a one and done situation. This is a
So this guy, I mean, I'm glad to hear this, right? Because this guy clearly has a vested interest in the game. He clearly wants to play the game. Yeah, this is an addicted Andy. Well, good. Those are the people that I want going to bat for me. What do you think? I want Bill, who's got 8 kids and 9 jobs? No, Bill doesn't give a shit. I want the guy that's put 1,000 hours into a fucking alpha.
Game that I've dedicated a lot of time and effort to, and everything that I say, it's going to be for the preservation of this game. Not every MMO, past or future. New World is my main concern. So they made it clear during their statement that if they build the battle pass, it'll be around items that a high-end player would already have. In addition, I would assume to the cosmetics and things of that nature. For the less dedicated player, they'd be able to buy these quality of life items to offset the lack of time, and give them an opportunity to stay in league with everybody else. Now, one of the first things I wanted to ask after this, and we didn't stay on the topic for that long, was I wanted to know what they had spent already on the development for New World. So not counting marketing or anything like that, just development cost alone and their team size. Now outright, before I even asked the team size, they told me they have over 200 employees over there. I couldn't get an exact number on the spending, but they did say it's a lot. And I would not be surprised in the slightest if it was 150 million or way more. Now my thing is, we know that they have to make money. One of the next things they said is that they do discuss this stuff internally. They do not want to become a company that ends up nickeling and diming for literally everything. And I went over...
Who wants to say that they do? I mean, like, there's nobody that's gonna say, like, yeah, well, we want to do this. Like, of course that's not what they want to do. It doesn't mean that's not what's gonna happen, though.
Some of the stuff that people would never want to see. No bank, no inventory expansions, no way to purchase in-game currency with cash shop money. People would absolutely not want to see anything like that. And one of the things they did say, which I totally understand, is that even though they're underneath Amazon themselves, they still have to show an independent profit as a business. But even with that, they say that they have no intention of removing value from the game so that players will feel more incentivized to swipe their credit cards. And after the entire conversation, I mean, that's kind of what they did though, right? Because they already did that with the Rested experience, because Amazon a few months ago, they nerfed the Rested experience. And then then after that, they said they were going to add it into the store. So that's already something they did. And the fact that they are both developer and publisher at the same time is a powerful combination that should always be taken into account. Because we know exactly what can happen when developers and publishers are two different entities. Now around this point you might be asking me, but Medieval, what if we start out strong, it's just buy to play and cosmetic only at the beginning, but somewhere down the line, whether it's 6 months or 2 years, everything gets reneged on and turned into something we fear the most.
Exactly.
And I would say, what's stopping that? Not a damn thing. That's a very good point. But I know myself that after years and years of searching on the sidelines for a decent MMO to call my home, I would rather enjoy it and fear that possibility from the inside as opposed to repeating this bullshit cycle yet again and waiting on the sidelines for years for something that might never come. And
that's that's the way I feel too sometimes, right? Is like it's just been so it's been so long that people haven't had like a good MMO to look forward to. Everybody just wants to play it. We just want to play a good game. Like, just please let us play a good fucking game. That's the way you should feel? Yeah, I think that's the way a lot of people do feel, man.
Like I said, I've already got all those hours in this game, and we haven't even got to beta yet. If I were to accumulate 4,000 to 6,000 more hours before this stuff got reneged on, if it did, that would still be 100% worth it, especially if we go by the dollar per hour ratio. And also, they've already seen firsthand what happens when a community is not happy with the system or upcoming plans. And like
so it's basically like, just enjoy it while you can, and whenever it dies and they add in the stuff, who cares? Like, that's pretty much what he's saying.
Like they did say in the conversation, it would definitely be in their best interest to not screw over the consumer, and this part's my words, because in the future if it did get worse, well then everybody would start to fight up all over again.
Yeah.
But all in all, they did acknowledge the concern. The conversation did move into the fast travel portion. I said specifically that if it is Azoth that they plan on selling directly, because they're still in the planning phases, that perhaps it could be a token instead. But that way we don't see it as a currency you can buy outright, and it should still fulfill the same purpose. Something I did not mention but I should definitely add is that if any of these utility or quality of life items were to stick, they should not be tradable or sellable in the auction house. But their response to the Azoth part is that they've been making changes to the game, and I'm sure many players can attest to this. Compared to previous iterations, Azoth is not really something that you have a lack of. So ideally a high-end player or someone that plays a decent amount would not necessarily...
Azoth was like a resource that you would use to fast travel and also craft certain things. It's pretty much what it is.
They really care about these consumables that give Azoth if they were actually introduced. But they also say that this is not a guaranteed thing. They don't know if casual players will need assistance with gaining Azoth over time over the course of their playthrough, but they want to have some ideas or at least be ready by the time these things come around. And that was also when they confirmed that the fast travel thing is not set in stone. It could end up being a potion that would give us Azoth outright, or it might be something as a modifier to increase the amount we get normally. Or their original thought pertains to just allowing us to purchase faster recalls, also known as bypass the cooldown on our innkeeper and house travel cooldown. And that's a recurring theme with the thought.
Yeah, it's like buying a reset for your Hearthstone. That's pretty much what they're saying.
Of life boosts as well. They have no intention to do anything that would outright give you these levels. We would still need to do the content just like everybody else. Which they also didn't say what percentages they might be, but I would personally say that if we had to have them, around 10 or 20% would be pretty fair, or around that at the very least, since we already felt the 10% XP buff before they made changes to the PvP flagging system. And I actually did talk about other ways to introduce these boosts organically into the game. So like the double experience events, triple experience events, holiday events, stuff like that I did mention. But overall, the point of these public statements they've been making is because they wanted to be transparent about what they've been thinking long term as well as short term. And like for the rested experience thing, one thing I wanted to correct is that people were worried that they've been taking the value out of the game to resell it to you later on in the form of microtransactions and maybe cosmetics. One of the examples of this was the Forging Fury patch notes where they made a few nerfs to the rested experience system, like changing when the rested XP starts accumulating. Well, that was actually rebuffed in this most recent patch. If you look through side by side, they re-changed the grace period before the rested experience starts to generate, raised the cap of the total rested experience, and now allow it to work on all sources. They did decrease the rate at which it's gained though, but overall between the two sections of notes, I would call this a buff. And for the cosmetic side, they've been making a lot of changes to the visual aspects of the gear. They've introduced new gear sets that are unique to obtain, like for Outpost Rush, expeditions, and updated visuals to a lot of gear sets that are obtainable through player versus environment and crafting. So to be honest, in my opinion, first and foremost, these are all mostly just extra ways for them to make money. But they are definitely adding that value aspect on top of this so that players are not at the mercy of the cash shop, which is much better than we've seen in the past. And we've already seen examples of really good looking gear sets in the newest announcements, and as I said, the concepts they showed me of some of the upcoming stuff, this is not going to be a game that shall not be named situation where we go through the majority of our playtime looking really bad and have to spend money to look good again. But for the quality of life, these appear to be the only things they have in mind right now. But they did make sure to stress again that none of these items would be seen in the immediate future. They've got a development plan laid out to around Christmas already, they've said, but they're
That's basically whenever they said they were going to add the potentially microtransactions afterwards. I don't know, man. I don't know. Why are we pretending like people that buy boosts and Hearthstone resets at a rate of gain X currency are poor people with jobs that don't have time? We all know that it's whales that play 12 hours a day and spend thousands of dollars on this kind of crap. No, you're totally right. I mean, most of the people that buy this shit have tons of fucking money and tons of time. Those are the people that are playing the game all the time. That's why they see value in it. Like, yeah, you're totally right. Like, I don't know how many people I know that play WoW 10 hours a day and buy WoW tokens constantly so they can buy even more stuff in the game. Yeah, it's like this weird idea that it's some guy that only has a little bit of time to play and then, you know, you're adding these microtransactions in to help him. I don't even think that's the main audience for these things. I think for a lot of cases, it's people that play the game fucking constantly and they want to get every advantage that they can because they're power gamers, right? That's what they are. And like, it's a term. Like, these are the people that are going to play constantly. They're going to invest money into the game. They're super serious.
Goal right now is just to look for feedback. So I would say we probably wouldn't see a mention or anything related to quality of life until January or spring of next year. By then, the majority of us will already be capped out and probably not care at all, as long as these are things that don't affect the gameplay experience drastically. And that's after we've given them all of our feedback, which I highly encourage everybody to do. And me making this video is not trying to tell people that have already canceled their pre-orders or written off the game entirely to reverse their decision. I would rather you be influenced by yourself and yourself alone. Listen to all the details, do your own research, and make up your mind accordingly. And also, we are completely able to refund our purchases all the way up to beta, and that's on the Steam side. So if you're on the fence, wait for reviews, wait for live streams, make your decision based off that, and give feedback on what you would and would not be okay with seeing. But overall, that's the gist of the MTX portion of the conversation that I had with Amazon Game Studios. After that conversation, I do feel much more at ease of where they're going to go with this situation. They strike me as people that have a really big care for the quality of their game. So
there's a lot of people that feel that way. I'm sure that they care. Like, here's the thing, is that the devs, like, no, you guys got to understand. Like, the devs care. Like, the people that he was talking about aren't lying to him. Like, they're not lying at all. Like, these people are really... like, they really love the game. Here's what happens, right? Is so, like, you have the guy at the top who doesn't even know what the level cap of the game is. And he sends down marching orders for this game needs to make this much money and sell this many units. And then the developers have to scramble together to find ways to meet those demands. So it's not the developers that are the bad guys. The developers get it. They understand as well as we do because many of those people grew up playing games and they don't want to be in this situation, but it's just the way gaming is. And that's the truth. It's the way gaming is now. So it's like they either don't have a job or nothing.
Take of that what you will. Buy the game, do not buy the game. That's completely your choice. And either way, thanks so much for watching. Leave your comments below and I'll catch you next time.
The store ruins the entire fucking game. I mean, here's the thing, is like, if it was up to me, I would have no store. Like, I don't want a store at all. Like, just make a game, let us play the fucking game without trying to nickel and dime us. Like, absolutely. Asmongold's shocked that companies want to make money. Epic Infinity, I actually have a great quote. I have a great quote for you, Epic Infinity. This is written a while ago. It's actually a really, really good article here, or a twit longer here. You can read. It's actually very smart, and the person that wrote it is a real genius. Companies don't have to do this. The misguided understanding of fiduciary responsibility in the gaming community has led thousands of people down the path of wrongfully rationalizing these consumer unfriendly practices as they have to make their shareholders happy, or it's a business, they need to make money. If a company has to make as much money as possible, why are games priced at $40 instead of $45? They'd make more money at $45, wouldn't they? Even a fool could tell you this isn't the case because less people would buy the game the more expensive it is. People spend more money on something they find more value in, and the more expensive something is, the less people will buy it. Now let me tell you that this idea does not exist as a single data point, but as an entire spectrum. The projected value of an item is diminished when its integrity is compromised. This isn't felt in a quarterly earnings report, but over the years of lessened interest until it's too late and the game is condemned to managed decline. Don't ask me how I know this. If I knew every single other person would boycott a video game if it had microtransactions in it, I would do it too. But the problem is that there's always going to be scabs. There's always going to be people that will just play the game anyway. As I've said before, every single gamer boycott is 1 3-minute cinematic from being over. Bring an average 40K viewers, what the hell are you talking about, bro? Big dick energy, stop being so unconfident. Bro, thank you so much, but please, man, look at the fact that I have hated store mounts for years. I have complained about store mounts for years, and then people keep buying them. They keep doing it. Nothing changes, nothing is different. It's always the same. So you gave up. At a certain point, yeah. Why keep beating your head against a wall if the wall's not doing anything? Why? Like, what's the point? You see what I'm saying? Like, how long do you beat your head against a wall until you think to yourself, hey, maybe I'm just giving myself a headache? It's because yours out of feedback, they had to release a statement. That's you having an impact. But it's not me having an impact. Who cares if they put out a statement? What do you think they'd rather do? Put out a statement or change the game? Yes, Scott. Go write up something for those nerds that are pissed off on the internet. Try not to get them any more angry, okay? All right, cool. Yeah, see you later. No, we're not changing anything, man. Fuck them. That's what's happening. Keep calling them out and they'll change it. I guess I'm just so... I'm so demoralized because of what's happened in WoW. Like, Burning Crusade for me was like the last straw. And I'll be honest, it was like the last straw, man. And to see... I'm a beaten dog. Yeah, it's like to see Blizzard try to monetize, and like the worst, you know what the worst thing to me about the Burning Crusade thing was? The fact that they used the Illidan prepared line to sell microtransactions. That was just so... It just made me feel bad. You know what I mean? It just made me feel bad. They know most people don't care. That's the reality, guys. The reality is that we are the minority. The reality is that you will find people that will try to look on the bright side of this. Their goal will be to look on the bright side. It has to be the developer. If we can't convince the developer to take this out of the game and not have this in the game, then the consumer cannot convince anybody. The consumer can't do anything. Because for every one person, for every one of us, there's like 50 of the other people that will just happily buy it and not think anything of it. And even some of those people that happily buy it and don't think anything of it think that we are stupid. Not only do they are they okay with buying microtransactions, but they think the people who aren't okay with it are stupid. So that's the issue. is it's not just, yeah, you need to convince the director. Yeah, these are the people that like, it's the same with TBC, right? Like, you can't make people not buy the boost. You can't make people not buy the storm. They don't care. It has to be the developer. The developer is the arbiter of integrity. The developer defines the integrity of the game. The players will always, they will always sneak and fucking go to the lowest level. And I know the worst part is, like, nobody else even cares about this. Like, nobody else even cares. Nobody gives a shit. Oh.
Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar. Now before we start this video off, the title of this will probably be something like Xbox has committed a huge mistake, which they have. Now I want to just address a couple things. There's going to be two types of people that watch this video. There's going to actually three types. There's going to be the number ones who've clicked on this video who don't care about video gaming at all. The recommended algorithm probably threw them down the rabbit hole. The second version of people are going to be individuals who play video games like me. Now you might have a version, a specific console you play on. Some of you play on PlayStation, some of you play on Xbox, some of y'all are Mac gamers, I can't believe I used a plural for that, some of you all game on PC, some of you all game on the N-Gage, okay? Alright, everyone has a platform. And for those people, you know, who play on it and say, oh, critical, you know, opinions of my gaming console, that's cool, friend. You know what? I understand. Everyone has a different take here and there. Awesome. I'm gonna keep playing video games. You're a cool guy. You're a cool guy or gal. I love you. You're a gamer. Now, if you're one of those people that clicked on this video and saw a negative title, and immediately in your head you're like, oh god, I hate Mutahar! I hate him so much! How dare he hate my console! if you're one of those people typing in a long form response in the comment section below, I'm gonna just tell, I'm not gonna read it, okay? I'm not gonna bother reading it. I'm not gonna give you the time and attention, all right? Because if you're that invested in plastic, then you need to go outside and experience the real fucking world is what you need to do, okay? See, I'm one of those people that I own every gaming console out there, purely because over time I pick them up, especially when they go on sales. I like to play video games, okay? I like video games. It doesn't matter what console or system I play on. I play video games. I don't fight for plastic boxes, all right? Now, I've made several videos on everything. I've made videos shitting on Nintendo for similar things. I've made a video very recently shitting on PlayStation for their CMOS issue, which is still an issue, by the way, Sony. Go fuck yourself for not fixing it yet. But now I gotta shit on Xbox even harder. Now, Xbox has some glaring problems. The biggest one I'll cover right now is you need an internet connection to even use the box, okay? To understand how bad Xbox's systems are, Xbox's digital rights management, which is a system used in place to basically, control who can play or not play a video game, right? A lot of people say it's to prevent piracy, but I fucking defend piracy because, believe it or not, piracy is the only way we can actually preserve our video games. When I'm talking about digital rights management, it's literally multiple ways to prevent users from accessing the media or content, unless, of course, the actual license holder, in this case Microsoft, has deemed you worthy of playing the game, or you own the game. Now, Xbox's DRM is system-wide. Back in the days of 2013, when their system was coming out, everyone crapped on Microsoft, rightfully so, for implementing a 24-hour check-in. So every 24 hours, your system would have to call back to Microsoft servers and say, hey buddy, I'm here. If it didn't do that, you couldn't run your games, okay? It was a terrible system, should never have even been conceived, let alone implemented. But when the backlash happened, Microsoft very quickly caved in and took it all away. Now, that being said, Xbox One as a platform has this so entrenched that when you buy a system from them, whether it's the original Xbox One all the way up to the Xbox Series X, you need a day one connection to their servers to even create an account, migrate an account, and use the box. If you do not have that day one internet connection, the box effectively is a fucking brick. You have bought a useless box day one. Now, for 99% of people, this is personal opinion from me. This isn't going to be an issue, okay? When I bought an Xbox, I knew this. I very quickly plugged it up to the internet, and I set up my account within minutes, and I was ready to go. It's not the worst thing, at least from getting on, okay? Xbox One X, all right, most people on Xbox Ones know this, and they have already set up their consoles and provisioned it. When you have done that once, you can then set it as your home Xbox. You can disconnect the Xbox entirely. Now, what's gotten a little weirder is Xbox's game preservation. Now, if there's a reason why I own over 9,000 discs for PlayStation and like 20 for Xbox One, there's a really big fucking reason for that. That's because Xbox Series X has some severe issues installing games. It does not preserve old media very well. To understand, I'm going to highlight a key issue. Now, on Xbox One or PlayStation, there's been a rumor floating around that when you buy discs, for instance, any kind of disc, the disc is just a license. That's true, but the disc also contains usually the 1.0 version of a game, meaning that if you didn't have an internet connection, you can choose to, if you wanted, waste hours out of your life playing a piece of shit like Left Alive, and you do not need an internet connection. Anytime an internet connection is needed, in the case of, say, Call of Duty Modern Warfare or The Division 2, because those games are primarily online, it will usually denote somewhere on this box that internet is required. In this case, it doesn't. Most games, at least 99% of what I've experienced, have a functional game on the disc, alright? Yes, patches are needed sometimes to give more gameplay features or better, smooth out the frame rates or, make the game more stable in general, but you do not need patches. The game is complete on a disc 1.0, okay? If you wanted to play, say, Divinity Original Sin 2 on the PlayStation, this is the full version of the game with no patches. You can play it start to finish. Trust me, I have. Now, going on further, Xbox has an issue. Now, in this case, I've decided to take copies of Assassin's Creed Origins as an example. Now, I own Assassin's Creed Origin on Xbox One and PlayStation. These are the 1.0 versions of each game. Now, on Xbox One, typically you can stick the disc in and it will install from disk and run. Now, you could get a patch if you were connected to Xbox Live, but if you weren't, it would be fine. At least from my experience on the Xbox One X, I was able to play this game off of the disc with no connection, from what I recall. Now on Series X, here's the fucking kicker. When you put the disc in, and I'm going to time-lapse the footage here, it will install from disk 0% all the way to 100%. Now, during this case, I turned my Xbox One entirely offline, I made it my home Xbox, and I restarted the console, power cycled it, so there would be no issues. Right? The system was completely offline. Now, I was able to run my digital games just fine. Games like Splinter Cell Double Agent for the original Xbox that I downloaded through the store. I was able to play Watch Dogs 2 with all of the FPS boosting galore right there, which is a seriously cool feature that Xbox offers that PlayStation doesn't, which I want to see more of. But back on topic, once I took a disc copy of my base Xbox One Assassin's Creed, it installed all the way to 100%, and then I couldn't fucking run it because the system needed to be connected online in order to run. So, again, remember this, a game that I bought for $60 fucking on a system that I own 100%, at least in theory, is not able to run the disc-based version of that game without an internet connection. Now, of course, there's going to be people in the comments who are like, but this has always been the case. Not really, no. Because if you look at MVG, Modern Vintage Gamer, who has more physical games than I do, has done the same test, seeing that he has had an issue with Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, a base Xbox One game. So at least in theory, base Xbox One without an internet connection is not fucking supported on a Series X or S. Now, there are smart delivery games, which is Microsoft's way of installing the appropriate version of games to your system. It's a cool piece of tech where, on the disc, in theory, when say you buy something like Yakuza 7, it will have the original Xbox One version of the game available, but the same disc will also have the Series X version. In practice, however, that's not the case. Most of these discs are just base Xbox One versions, and if you put them in the Series S or Series X, you will need to download the Series X version of the game through Xbox Live. So again, that Series X next-gen version of the game is never really preserved. The only exception here are actual exclusive Series X games. So MVG showed, what was it, Devil May Cry 5, which ran just fine, okay? That's not a big issue. So in 2-3 years, when only Series S and X games are being produced, this will not be as big of an issue as it is now. But for this time period, it's bad. For people who wanted to preserve Xbox One physically, this is bad. This is why the last game I purchased on Xbox One on a disc was Kingdom Hearts 3. Bad mistake. Now, to compare this with PlayStation, which is even worse for backwards compatibility, right? You know, you want to try running a PS3 game on PS5 or 4? Good luck. Okay, laugh my ass off. Xbox One preserves games really well. You can preserve games like Lost Odyssey, Red Dead Redemption. A lot of this is there. The caveat, though, is it's all connected to Xbox Live. So let's say you wanted to play Sonic the Hedgehog 06, right? I don't even know if this is backwards compatible. You can put the disc in to the Xbox One, however, it won't run off the disc. It'll download an emulated version from Xbox Live. Same for any supported original Xbox game. So the backwards compatibility is great for 99.9% of the cases. But in 15 years, when the servers go down for that specific system, it may not be as supported as you once expected. Now, you may be wondering, who plays a game after 15 years? Motherfucker, I'm playing Final Fantasy VII on the original PlayStation, okay? Back then, when you bought a system like a PlayStation 1 or a Super Nintendo, you could just get a cartridge, stick that shit in, no internet connection required. That kind of preservation may not exist for consoles going forward. Now, back on topic with PlayStation, I took Assassin's Creed Origins, I put that onto a disc, installed it directly on my PS5. So again, no internet connection, no nothing. Restarted. I even made a brand new account without the internet, which is something you can't do on Xbox One. PlayStation 4 and 5, you can buy it from a store, set it up without any internet connection. Sure, you'll miss out on patches, sure that sucks, but the games are playable from start to finish. No internet. Totally preserved. So, when I installed Assassin's Creed Origins from disk, it had the same file size as Xbox One. However, the key difference was on a PS5 and a 4, I was able to install the game, and once it was fully ready, I fired it up and I could actually play the game on a PlayStation 5 or 4 or whatever. You cannot do this as easily on an Xbox One. Now, personal opinions after all of this is stated, this is bad for Xbox, okay? And more Xbox gamers need to raise awareness to Phil Spencer so that this can eventually be patched out. Because if you don't take a fucking stand now, the system is going to be e-waste in 15 years down the road. If Xbox started doing this, I would immediately start buying all of my physical discs for Xbox. Why would I buy Mass Effect the Legendary Edition for a weaker system like PlayStation 5 over the Series X? That's because the disc that I bought for PlayStation 5 is truly a preserved disc, versus Xbox One, where it's not even mandated to be the fucking final version on a disc. On an Xbox, you have to download a majority of the game's content on a disc anyways, okay? It's fucking stupid that Xbox has allowed this to go on this long. Now, again, personal opinions. For 99.9% of people, this is all just invisible, pointless shit anyways. But I'm a game preservationist, okay? This is why I champion shit like emulation. Because if these companies don't care about our games being preserved, we might as well take the fucking mantle into our own hands. And that's pretty much how things go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, okay, this may not be a big issue. Some people may look at this as pointless whining. And at the end of the day, you can basically think of it like that, but I look at it as a way of preserving the media that we have come to know and love, alright? Movies are preserved relatively well with Blu-rays. Music is relatively preserved very well with vinyls. Why is it that video games are the only fucking industry where the games companies can literally go out of their way to invent shitty DRM that locks us out? I mean, case in point, I tried to play Persona 4 Golden underneath Linux, and when I was switching between Proton libraries, it was installing the game over again like as it was a new computer. Over there, I figured out all these de novo DRM games on PC have an install limit of like 4 installs every 24 hours. Most people aren't going to hit that. Linux users probably will, and I was locked out of the game I paid for 24 hours, whereas somebody could pirate that same game and keep playing it like no tomorrow. Video games are the only industry where companies can get away with this shit, and you'll still have dipshit losers defend them. There's no reason you should defend Xbox. Xbox does a lot of things right, like Game Pass. A million things are done right by Xbox, no doubt. But this is a key kick in the nuts by the company to the average user base. So hopefully Xbox can change this, Xbox can make it better. Again, I don't know if I can hold my breath, but hey, if Phil Spencer comes out and tells us that, guess what, buddy? I'm going to make the Xbox One completely offline friendly. No need to install discs and have the internet, present in the entire deal. If they do that, I'll share a picture of my asshole on OnlyFans. I don't even care. But that'll never happen, given how Xbox is trending to go. But hopefully, a man can dream. Anyways, I wanted to raise awareness on this issue because I really take this to heart. And if anything can be changed, then great. But I feel like the general public should know this going forward if they choose to buy physical Xbox One games or have any hope of preserving this for 15 years down the road when they want to end up showing their kids or grandkids about how cool gaming was back in the day with its microtransactions and battle passes and all that shit. That being said, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. This is me, Mutahar, and I'm going to go play Shin Megami Tensei 3. Not
Here you go. I clicked on System Health, and the first thing it came up with was, what is malware? And I feel like it should just be a picture of this application. And so we've got Dell Support Assist Remediation, Dell Support Assist, Dell Hardware Support, Dell Digital Delivery Services, Dell Data Vault Service API, Dell Data Vault Processor, Dell Data Vault Collector, Dell Client Management Service. I just really feel like they're connecting with me. It doesn't feel like a faceless corporation when there's an emoji. What? In the second and final part of our Dell G5 5000 pre-built gaming PC review, we're going to be evaluating the bloatware that comes with it and also gaming performance. Thermal performance will be in here as well. The oddities of the BIOS and the options that are not given to you as a purchaser of this $900 box, and of course coming to conclusions as to whether or not you should buy the Dell G5. It does come with this keyboard though. Before that, this video is brought to you by the Thermaltake Tower 100. Thermaltake's Tower 100 is a mini ITX case to serve as a showcase system for your components. The Tower 100 has received many revisions since we first saw it, and the case now has an open vent in the bottom for intake, a mesh cutout in the side panel for some GPU ventilation, and additional mesh along the side skirts and the side panels of the case. The Tower 100 is mostly focused on building a showpiece PC that's small enough to fit on most tables. Learn more at the link in the description below. In part 1 of this series, we did a teardown of the Dell G5 sitting next to me here. It's a small box. It's a gaming enclosure you can purchase from Dell directly or from major retailers. We bought this one from Best Buy, and we have an Alienware system on the way from Dell's website. And in part of our evaluation process for pre-builds, one of the things we were looking at was, but is it okay? Is it okay to settle in any capacity in a market where GPUs are hard to get? That's an absolutely valid reason to buy pre-builds. And we're not trying to be elitist about going the DIY approach. But there are pre-builds that you shouldn't buy. And there are pre-builds that would be okay even if you had to rebuild it in a different case. This is one that, as we discussed in part 1, which you should watch if you haven't, is mostly made of proprietary components, including an odd CPU cooler, a motherboard whose front I/O is not just a connector for the case, but is literally the case's front I/O, so they have to go together, and a power supply that isn't even ATX 12VO, but it's also not ATX. Really bizarre. But anyway, that's part 1. In this one, we're going to talk about some of the other softer side of things and the BIOS side of things and configuration from Dell out of the factory. Let's get into it. So before we look at all the benchmark numbers, time to look at some software. Pre-built systems often come with what's commonly referred to as bloatware, no particular reason. And we're going to look at what the Dell system has before looking at the rest of this. So starting off, we have 15 Windows notifications. go ahead and see what these are. We've rebooted the system a few times, and it looks like we've got Dell Mobile Connect, which is pre-installed and included with the system. Welcome. Dell Mobile Connect allows you to use your phone from your PC. Why would I want to do that? Dell already used my cell phone earlier to try and access my own account to see what I'd ordered. So I think I'm good with not sharing further information with them. Next thing to do, obviously we have some games on here from our testing, but let's type in Dell and see what's pre-installed. So we have My Dell, Dell Update, Dell Mobile Connect, Dell Cinema Guide, Dell Digital Delivery, Dell Customer Connect, Dell Type-C, Status Display Application. I went to the system tray. About. This application is used for the USB Type-C status display and is supported on off device. What? Why is this here? What is this? The only option is exit and about. Alright, well, let's exit. Alienware Command Center. Let's see what that is. That's good. You open it and it immediately says downloading with no user input. It did boot fast. I mean, the SSD's doing its job. So I click on it, it immediately starts downloading something. And I don't have an X here. Alright, let's go ahead and let that download though. Let's see what kind of garbage comes with that. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get my Dell open. This looks useful. Oh, another great start. Continue using my Dell. Please update the application. It's worth it. I just really feel like they're connecting with me. It doesn't feel like the Faceless Corporation when there's an emoji. What happens if I say no? Stop using emojis! Stop it! You must update to continue using this app. Meantime, how many Dell applications do I have? The writhing corpse of bloatware, I guess, is alive and well at this point. I haven't really seen antivirus software in a while. So is it actually installed? Oh god. I see it's working as well as it always has. So if there's any question about where's the value in this computer, it comes with 14 at least control panels and applications right there ready to use when you turn it on. Good. Looks good. What I'm going to do next is open up Windows Task Scheduler and see what we have hiding in here. Dell Support Assist Agent Auto Update. Triggers every Saturday, every week at 7:44 p.m. That's odd. McAfee remediation. Repeat every, I don't know, is that day? Indefinitely. McAfee logon. Oh, got some audio crap in here. Okay, and most of these are NVIDIA and Microsoft. So some antivirus stuff and Dell stuff. 8 Dell services that are all running. Excellent. All running in the background. So we've got Dell Support Assist Remediation, Dell Support Assist, Dell Hardware Support, Dell Digital Delivery Services, Dell Data Vault Service API, Dell Data Vault Processor, Dell Data Vault Collector, Dell Client Management Service. We also have running 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 McAfee services, Web Advisor, Validation Controller, PEF, Module Core Service, Firewall Service are all present, and a couple of others. There is so much garbage on this computer. Okay, with everything open, let's click through it all. So, McAfee, I've seen that before. Dell Update Package. It's a notice that there's an update for Alienware Command Center, which was a self-updating application that immediately started downloading things as soon as we opened it without a prompt. This is already behaving like malware, but it's got another update notification for it. So there's what else is on here? Killer Network. an advertisement, Dropbox, that was paid. How would you rate your experience with the G5 5000? Dell Digital Delivery. You're not having applications available. Dell Mobile Connect. Wireless PC smartphone integration for iOS and Android. You can get notifications, so now you can know that you need Dell Mobile Connect from your phone and from Windows. Dell Update, so this is for basically their drivers page. By the way, the driver page for this thing has AMD drivers on it, even though there's no AMD parts in this particular system, and they're marked as urgent, so that's not great. And then finally, Dell, My Dell, one-stop shop for everything related to the G3. You got your device, setup software, and Dell settings. Here you go. I clicked on System Health, and the first thing it came up with was, what is malware? And I feel like it should just be a picture of this application. How do I know if my computer is infected? Browser redirects, pop-ups, homepage changes. We've had at least these two things happen in the last 5 minutes of using this computer. What? What is the GPU doing? What is that? Is one of these like mining or something? CPU. So not much on the CPU. 30% GPU usage is insane. Let's figure out which one of these this is. Wow. That was crazy. That application, the one that said what is malware and warned about high resource utilization, was causing very high resource utilization. 30%. If you had that thing open while playing games, the performance would be dismal. And it's still, by the way, at 12%. Man. 100. 3. Really? The update manager and Dell Mobile Connect? Any OEM, especially, the big OEMs, often have an arrangement between them and some major antivirus provider, largely irrelevant ones at this point, and you're going to end up with stuff on your system. So our advice is always to clean it up first thing, or just install a new OS. Because frankly, I don't trust the OEMs to install an OS that I want to use, that I want to put my information into. So if you have the ability, it's not hard, get a USB device, get a Windows bootable media burned to it, Microsoft distributes it, install your own OS, it's all gone. You just blast it all away as soon as you turn the thing on, and that'll be a lot better. BIOS is another critical part of the computer, even if you never use it. Dell's UEFI here is pathetic. It's completely barren, and it looks the same as it did in 2009. Literally, it's like the same skin. First, there's no fan control, which is completely insane because there is a PWM header, and there's really no reason not to just have a BIOS option exposed for the user to change the fan speed, other than it was an oversight or laziness or incompetence. Dell has a new UEFI version as well that claims a fan speed reduction or a noise reduction, which would be a fan speed reduction, and there's no magic here. They are able to control the fan speed, of course. It's just not visible to the user. For whatever it's worth, looking through the rest of the BIOS for small details, Dell has SATA mode set to RAID on rather than AHCI for some reason, maybe some new form of Shadow RAID sponsorship, and Smart Check is disabled during setup. Dell has memory set to 2666 MHz on the 3200 MHz sticks, but the JEDEC settings table for 2666 is loaded for its tighter timings. This actually does make sense, and it's a good thing. This isn't Dell's problem in this instance. It's a matter of the chipset and the processor being limited to lower speed. In this instance, the 10400F, being a non-K SKU on a non-Z SKU motherboard, can't go above 2666. Another positive is that Dell has noted the specific physical location of each USB port and its speed in BIOS. And this is a nice feature. More boards could use this. We've seen it in a couple over the years, but it's not too common. Dell also has some built-in recovery tools for diagnostics, which is another worthwhile feature that an OEM can supply. Unfortunately, the BIOS for this proprietary non-standard motherboard lacks memory and clock controls of any kind other than turbo control, making it basically useless for future upgrades. It's time to get into benchmarks. We'll look at thermals for this hot box that has the deceptive appearance of openness, and we'll also look at the gaming performance, the power consumption, and the noise. As a reminder, all the tests were conducted by Patrick prior to the teardown, so the teardown did not influence the results as it was done after testing. We'll start with thermals on that dismal cooler. Thermal testing was conducted with various loads to give Dell the best chance of performance. As always, thermals were conducted in a heavily controlled test lab with a constant ambient temperature of 21 degrees Celsius. We wait for steady state to be achieved prior to analyzing the thousands of rows of data, and we allow a cooldown period for internal ambient to stabilize between tests. Our CPU-only Blender workload didn't involve the GPU at all. The CPU ended up running at 80 degrees anyway, and that's only for 106 watts for the entire system's power consumption. That's not good, but it's at least in acceptable territory for the CPU and not hitting TJ max. CPU temperature climbed to 89 degrees Celsius when we also loaded the GPU for additional throughput. The CPU isn't pulling more power here, it's actually the same as before, and so this means that the extra 10 degrees hike that we saw was caused by the GPU heating up the air inside of the case, and since there's nowhere for that hot air to go except right over the CPU, we end up with both parts directly influencing each other's temperatures. GPU core temperatures were okay at about 73 degrees Celsius, with hot spots in the 80s, but the GPU actually got warmer when we increased the CPU fan tube manually. Again, we had to do this with an external solution because Dell decided that fan control is too much power for one user to have, and that GPU temperature increase is now easy to explain. The CPU is now dumping its hot air partially into the backside of the PCB for the GPU, and ultimately into the GPU cooler. It also changes the pressure dynamic between the rear exhaust fan and the CPU fan. Temperature isn't in a runaway thermal scenario, but it has no business being this high for parts this low power consumption. Dell could fix most of this with a better case, sadly, so more expensive parts wouldn't even be needed. Just less plastic on the front of the case, or a 120mm intake fan instead of the 80mm exhaust fan. That doesn't even really move the BOM of this system. VRM thermals are next. The board actually did okay here. Without the heatsink that Dell only includes on higher power models, you can thank this power-limited CPU for reasonable VRM thermals and the downdraft cooler. The MOSFETs measured didn't exceed 70 degrees Celsius in testing, although equating the CPU cooler fan noise to that of a shrieking banshee did reduce the VRM MOS temperature to 62 degrees Celsius. That's expected of a downdraft CPU cooler. Dell gets away with a lack of a VRM heatsink in this one. You're far more likely to have one of their myriad other questionable components fail prior to a MOSFET anyway, so it's actually doing fine here. Power consumption for the Dell system was about where we'd expect, given that the components are already well documented in our reviews. Running only Blender to load the CPU, we measured about 133 watts immediately, or 106 after the usual tau window, where it expires. Rainbow Six Siege as a gaming workload pulled about 190 watts with the GPU benchmark settings, or 165 watts for total power with the CPU benchmark settings. Testing with a Torture workload, we saw a peak power consumption of 240 watts with Blender and FurMark on the GPU, or 210 watts after tap. Small fans mean whiny and loud fans that attempt to move equivalent air to a larger fan except through a smaller hole, which means more noise. Noise is taken at a 20-inch distance in a room with a noise floor of about 26 dB. This is similar to a quiet suburban house without any fans, AC, or street noise in the background. The Dell system has its own noise floor in this environment of about 32 decibels. We ran at idle for the first 120 seconds, and then we began a CPU and GPU workload similar to an intensive gaming scenario. There wasn't much hysteresis in the fan ramp, with the CPU and GPU fans immediately spurring to about 34 decibels on our measurement, and then dropping to 33, then climbing over a span of 170 seconds to the maximum fan noise that the system will ever hit. The noise is limited to peaks of about 40 decibels and has an ebb and flow pattern that occasionally cycles it down to 37 decibels or so in our environment, with an average around 38. As a reminder, these numbers aren't universally applicable. It depends on the test scenario that they're in. The important part with this chart isn't necessarily the hard number, it's the change. The problem with ramp up and down like this is that it's more noticeable than just a constant hum. This is louder than the system should be also, given its $900 price tag and its low TDP components, but it's not the worst we've heard. Dell's new BIOS would actually reduce this fan curve further, but we'd advise against installing it if for that reason alone, because you'll completely sacrifice the thermals, and they're already barely hanging on. Dell drops the ball hard with the CPU cooler. The cooler is capable of spinning up to 4,700 RPM, but Dell only ever uses 2,000 RPM of the capacity. We'd at least like to see a more intelligent profile instead of just hard limiting at 2,000 RPM. and even worse with the newer BIOS. The fan RPM, in fact, stays at just 1000 on this tiny 80mm cooler all the way until 70 degrees Celsius, and that's for the CPU cooler. It then ramps to 1500 RPM by 83 degrees, so we've got 1000 RPM for the first 70 C of our cycle, and then the next 13, it jumps 50%, and eventually it jumps to 2000 RPM at and beyond 90 degrees Celsius. We even externally and artificially heated the CPU with a heat gun at this point to see if the cooler would ever go into a Hail Mary mode and max the fan, but it didn't budge. The curve should be programmed to ramp really hard when it gets into dangerous thermal territory. Otherwise, the user risks damage to the system as it ages and gets dusty, or in the best case, loses performance from throttling. There's no compensation here. These numbers were taken with an external tachometer since Dell doesn't report the fan RPM for some profane reason, but without any compensation for those high thermal runaway scenarios, the system is just built in a way which is irresponsible and will leave users with something that is throttling without them knowing, or as it ages, risks maybe dying sooner from something like a lower temperature rated capacitor failing. Gaming benchmarks are next. We use a mix of games from our standardized CPU and GPU review suites, so that allows us to make some comparisons between this system and a well-built test system if we needed to. This suite is standardized and will be applied to all system integrator or OEM systems going forward, so we'll be able to build out comparative charts and compare multiple pre-builds, which is useful when looking at the value proposition of each one. Remember that gaming benchmarks are pursuant to the GPU and the CPU more than anything else, so the OEM and the SI contributions, whatever they may be, won't really appear here. The Dell system struggled to maintain 54 FPS average during Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p medium. Lows weren't good here, and we'd recommend lowering the settings a little further to better sustain gameplay, especially if you get into more complex scenes to render than our bench scene, like in firefights. Rainbow Six Siege did as it always does, running at ridiculous frame rates. We're CPU bound at 1080p, and we're GPU bound at 1440p with Rainbow Six, so everything is running predictably. Hitman 3 ran poorly, also expected, because our testing is configured to run a high CPU load. These results for Hitman are really bad. They're about half of what they should be for these parts. We should easily be in the range of 60 FPS for this benchmark. You'll see that in our next system integrator system review. But the problem for Dell is twofold. First, McAfee runs services constantly in the background, and those services seem to be attempting to do some sort of optimization for Hitman 3, assuming optimization means the eye can't see more than 24 FPS. They're doing a good job in that instance. Secondly, Dell's 4 chips on its single DIMM mean limitations of performance, and a single DIMM means limitations of performance as well, because we're not able to run the 2 channels that the board is capable of running, and the CPU is capable of running. So the memory is is actually coming into play here and is a problem. It's not just capacity, it's performance, and it's wasted clock cycles on background processes that chew away at the capacity. So, Dell here for Hitman 3 is running abysmally compared to where it should be. Red Dead 2 ran at about 54 FPS average with our GPU settings. Overall, it's doing okay, but it's not a good value. Nor is it well built with functionally proprietary parts, but for whatever it's worth, the Intel CPU and the NVIDIA GPU are working basically as expected. It's just that Dell put them in a computer. Finally, let's look at the bloatware benchmarks. With Dell's bloated software in use, we saw a 15% reduction in average FPS in Cyberpunk to 46 from 54, which is a massive fall off in performance. Ironically, the pop-up application that warns about pop-ups and high resource utilization was the highest resource drain here. The Rainbow Six Siege 1080p results also fell hard, a 12% reduction in average FPS from Dell's utilities in the background. We saw a similar reduction in Hitman 3 with a little change in Red Dead and 1440p Rainbow Six, but some of that just happens to be when the applications were doing things versus when they were briefly dormant. For instance, while testing Cyberpunk, we had one bench pass that cratered to 6 FPS for the 0.1% lows, not shown here, meaning that we had a hard, visible stutter, actually set of stutters, during gameplay as a result of Dell's software. This is a tangible impact to the gaming experience and functionally renders the game unplayable. And for no reason. These parts can play it, but not with that software doing weird stuff in the background. That'll pretty much wrap the series at this point. We're not sure what to do with this computer right now, but there are good options out there for people who do want to buy a pre-built. We haven't found them yet, but I'm sure they exist. We're working on it though. Our goal with this series of pre-built looks is to do an in-depth set of tests and disassembly analysis, look at the support for several major OEMs and SIs or system integrators to try and finally find one that gets it right. And in this instance, Dell does not get it right. But again, like we said in part one, you could buy something like CyberPower, iPower, whatever, and even if the configuration isn't correct, these are things that most people can fix, especially if it's something like BIOS. A layperson user could look that up and figure out how to resolve it. And if you just want to buy video cards in the form of a whole computer, because they're difficult to get otherwise, that's fine too, but this isn't the way to do it, because you end up with a bunch of parts.
I must not fall.
You and me, we got this.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. "30 seconds until minions spawn.
Mush! Mush! Whee!
Minions have spawned. Gouge of Valor.
Yo, pounce and crack!
Go for the eyes.
Now you're ready.
Gouge of Valor.
Use your force!
An enemy has been slain.
Like a tiger! The expert huntress stalks the battlefield.
An ally has been slain. Go for the eye.
Book doesn't like it. I could tell you wanted a brave and powerful warrior by your side. Wherever you go, I go. Just don't go somewhere.
Gouge of Valor.
Prowl.
Go for the eyes. Killing spree. I can't stop fighting. Shut down.
I'll stick with you. I guess we're going this way. Rubbing my head on you means you're mine. I'd just be a normal magical cat floating around Kansas City. Okay, napping around It's okay. We've got red from cover to cover sounds nice too.
An enemy has been slain.
We got the zoomies!
Your team has destroyed the turret.
I'll stick with you. Keep an eye out for red dot, Book. It's gotta be here somewhere. Now kill him! your ghost. Ooh.
Enemy killing spree. An enemy has been slain.
Is it time to save the world again? Where to? If someone told you to jump in a lake, would you do it? Just 'cause I go where you go?
Blast them, Gauntlet!
This way! No, this way! Okay, that way it is!
Killing spree. Shut down. Your team has destroyed a turret.
Expert huntress stalks the battlefield.
Eyes in the sky. Your turret has been destroyed.
one, but I love hugs.
Your turret has been destroyed.
I'm Yumi, and you're warm. I could tell you wanted a brave and powerful warrior by your side. Does your wallet help you pet more cats? Where's my fishy, fishy fish for my dishy, dishy dish? Wherever you go, I go. Just don't go somewhere bad.
Enemy killing spree. Enemy double kill. Shut down. An enemy is dominating.
Okay, it's time to clap. You do know how to clap.
Turret has been destroyed. Your turret has been destroyed.
Oh, is it time to save our friends again? If you find a rat, I call dibs. Fish. You can have using my chin and tap. No. Go, the foundation of empire. Faster! I have the best game in the spirit realm.
Your turret has been destroyed.
smell good. Did you recently fish? I guess we're going this way. Do you have snacks in your pocket? How about now? How about now?
Your turret has been destroyed.
It's okay. We've got 6 left. Or was it 5? Hey. Hey.
I must not fall. I must not fall.
You and me, we got this.
I must not fall.
More of a dog person, huh?
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Seconds until minions spawn.
Echoes from the deep.
Minions enemies have spawned.
Into the darkness. Lost and forgotten. Rest.
First blood.
The tide ebbs.
Sometimes you have to go back to move forward.
An ally has been slain. Shut down. been slain. Enemy double kill. Enemy rampage. Double kill. An ally has been slain.
Sometimes you have to go back to meet family.
Enemy has been slain.
Wrecked. For the future.
Has been slain. Slain.
Think with me.
Shut down. Your turret has been destroyed. enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret. A summoner has reconnected. A summoner has disconnected. A summoner has reconnected. destroyed. Defeat.